Hey Kool-Aid, at the start of the season, I felt like Barcelona were deep enough to compete across all three competitions and more. The onus would be on Ernesto Valverde to do his job and manage the team to Champions League glory. All that said, and a few months later, I feel like the team isn't as deep as it should be, and maybe that January transfer window is going to be more important for this squad to compete than we once thought. Because of this, a January window that we thought would be pretty quiet is actually going to have a little bit of noise. Now, a certain Brazilian might be tying up the funds for the summertime, so that could change things and not leave Barcelona much money to spend this January. Before I get started, I do want to challenge everybody who's watching to watch until the very end and leave a name in the comments for somebody that you think Barcelona should bring in for January or even wait to the summertime to get. And if you're new to this channel, I want to say hi, I'm Dan Hilton, and this is the Barcelona Podcast YouTube exclusive. We have to start with Neymar here, because his arrival would make everything else a non-starter. I wouldn't believe anything, good or bad, about Neymar's position at PSG. Frances and I have debated about whether or not the club needs him or should move for him on the podcast. And because Frances isn't here right now, I can reiterate that it rubs me the wrong way to bring him in. My opposition to him coming is less about his world-class talent and more about the fact that bringing in a player that will miss 10 matches or more a season and not using that money to reinforce an aging squad will lead to more of what we're seeing now. Bringing in Neymar this summer for the more than 150 million euros he'll cost will both improve PSG and put Barca in financial straits. For this reason, I can't imagine Barca spending much this month so that they can keep their options open for the Brazilian. Okay, so I still have a video to make, and I want to take liberty with reasonable business that the club should do in January that shouldn't break the bank. Dani Olmo should be the first name on any Kool-Aid's list. He ticks so many boxes for a player that the club should move for. For starters, he seems to want to return to the club after playing in La Masia for a number of years. At just 21, he also represents the future, but he could very likely make an impression in the present. He's played as an attacking midfielder, right winger, defensive midfielder, secondary striker, left winger, and central midfielder this year for Dinamo Zagreb. As Sergio Roberto has proven, versatility at that age gets you on the field. Figure out the best position later. More importantly, he would reportedly cost around 40 million euros. 8 goals and 7 assists is inflated because of playing in the Croatian league, I know, but I think he would fit just fine. Would Valverde, or a new manager, play a new 21-year-old though for the second half of the season? Of course not. But the board should anticipate the departure of Arturo Vidal and even Rakitic in the summer. Spend the money now and immediately loan him to a top 5 league team so that he can raise his profile and achieve his goal of getting into the Euro 2020 Spain squad. Barca wouldn't be doing that as a gift to the player, but as a way to help him challenge himself at a higher level for 6 months before making the jump to the Camp Nou in the summer. Speaking of 21-year-old midfielders, Barcelona has also been linked to the Brazilian midfielder from Palmeiras, Mateus Fernandez. This appears to be one of those rumors that came from one source and was then aggregated everywhere. He was signed by Palmeiras for 3.5 million euros last year, and while he has become a starter, I can't imagine him being anything more than a marketing buy for Barcelona B. However, if there is a belief that he could turn into a player and the scouts have done their homework, move for him now when he's available for less than 10 million. Hopefully this report isn't just a response to Real Madrid's recent move for Ranieri, the 17-year-old Flamengo midfielder that is seen as the current prize jewel coming out of Brazil. Since Barca got Neymar, it's not surprising that Perez doesn't want to miss out on the next Brazilian superstar. Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, and now Ranieri. It's nice to know that Barca own a little real estate in the mind of the Madrid board. As much as we talk about incoming transfers, players leaving is really what will dictate what Barca should bring in. Rumors of Fabian Ruiz coming to Barca popped up last month, but have since cooled quite a bit. The Napoli midfielder will cost between 60 and 75 million euros, but there is an argument to be made that the 23-year-old Spaniard could replace the best of both Vidal and Rakitic in just one midfielder. I think Barca can get players that do a similar job for less money, but that's just me. Another surprise exodus that seems now destined is Nelson Semedo, but again, that's going to happen in the summertime. We've heard 3 names since the news about Semedo broke. 2 are actually pretty puzzling, and 1 makes too much sense for Barcelona. Semedo is a good player and a starter, but his inability to overtake Sergio Roberto for the starting every match right back spot has both Kool-Aid's and the board worried about whether or not, because he is in his late 20s, going to be the starter for the long-term run at Barcelona. And while we do mention Roberto and Semedo, Moussa Vague's future already seems written in the stars, and that's not at the club. The two names in question are Ricardo Pereira of Leicester City and Lucas Klosterman of RB Leipzig. Pereira doesn't entirely make sense as the 26-year-old right-back is valued at 40 million euros, and Barcelona would be buying high on the player that has helped Leicester to the second spot in the Premier League table. Klosterman is on a first-place Bundesliga squad at the moment, and while the rumors for the German were a little louder, it's also telling that the rumors about the 23-year-old's future coming out of Germany only speak of Bayern Munich. Klosterman is tall and powerful, having also played at center-back this season. He may actually cost less than Pereira, but I'm assuming a bidding war for the player will make him cost more than market value, and I'm not entirely sure he fits at Barcelona either. Here's the no-brainer. 20-year-old Emerson was bought by Barcelona and Real Betis in a joint deal last January, both paying 6 million euros to Atletico Mineiro. Emerson is loaned until 2021 to Betis, at which time Barca were expected to pay the other 6 million euros and own the player outright. Complicated stuff, I know, but it should work out for the best for the Catalans. He's a regular starter at right back at Betis. He can get forward, scoring 3 goals and 4 assists already this season, and he seems to have a higher ceiling than Semedo. Okay, so La Liga starter and contributor. Barca partially own the player already. Is there a way to mess this up? Of course there is. Pay 50 million for a player that doesn't make as much sense, maybe also buy Emerson, and put them both behind Sergio Roberto. For a minute there was a rumor about Jean-Claire Todibo going to AC Milan, and Milan's captain Alessio Romagnoli coming the other way. The 24-year-old center-back is not leaving a struggling Milan side for Barcelona, certainly not in January. And for those also considering those Matthias de Ligt rumors, it's the January transfer window, so throw those out too. And actually for de Ligt, probably throw those out for a few years. Let's bookend this transfer list with another forward that Barca is looking at for the summer. If Neymar comes, I can't imagine that Barcelona will also be able to afford Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. Martinez has 9 goals in 17 Serie A games this season, and 5 in 6 games in the Champions League, as Barcelona saw firsthand. Inter Milan is in a fight for the Serie A title with Juventus, and there's little to no chance that they would sell their 22-year-old forward in January. As good as he is, the Argentine would still be way cheaper than Neymar, largely due to how less marketable he is, but he will still cost the kind of money that won't allow the arrival of both. Suarez needs replacing more than the club needs Neymar, so my pick is Martinez, but I do understand the argument for Neymar. These plans could get a little more complicated if Luis Suarez is shut down for a few weeks because of surgery. Barcelona don't have a great record about loaning experienced players in January, but they might have to spend money that they might not even have. We'll just have to wait and see. For those that have been with me for the last year, you know that this space has been in the works for a while, and I'm really excited to not only use it for this YouTube channel, but also take the podcast to new heights in the new year as well. Thanks to everyone that supported us along the way, especially our Patreons. And if you can't give like the rest of our Patreons, it would just be a huge help if you could like, share, and subscribe to this channel. As always, until next time, Forza Barca.